Hey, what's up everybody? My name is Scrying, and today we're going to talk about maps in Path of Exile's 3.26 expansion. With the release of the expansion, the Atlas has shuffled around a little bit, and with it the location is several divination cards. So we're going to talk about the big winners and losers here, as well as share with you a tool that I made to help you keep track of these and figure out which map is going to be the best one for you to run. Without further ado, boom, it's a spreadsheet. So this morning I decided to go through every map on the Atlas and record which divination cards can be found where with regards to the good ones. I also looked at all of the layouts that I thought were good or that I know other people have mentioned liking and listed which maps are connected for those. Now, if you're not familiar with the concept of ping-ponging in Path of Exile, real quick, this is basically you'll drop more of a connected map in a map that you're running. So for example, Race Course and Cemetery are connected this league. So if you're running Race Course, you'll drop more Cemetery maps and vice versa. You can use this to kind of build up your maps to stay in a particular layout. Like let's say you like running Dunes as your main layout. Defile Cathedral is a connected map, and so when you run out of Dunes, if you don't want to go buy more of them, you can run some of your Defile Cathedrals to build back up your pool of Dunes. This is something that is more useful in SSF than it is in trade, but it's still pretty useful in trade too if you're like me and you just don't like having to go buy maps from people. So we've gone through, and for every one of the good layouts, and for this, good layouts is a little bit subjective. There might be some in here that we've missed, but these are all ones that either I like or that I know that other people have mentioned liking. And we've recorded the map layout, the tier 17 that it drops, and this is very important when you're farming later, the good divination cards that the map drops, which layouts are connected that are good as far as layouts, which layouts that are connected as far as divination card drops, and how many watchstones you need to get that map to tier 16. On the second tab of the spreadsheet, we have maps that are maybe not the best layouts, but they're very good maps as far as divination cards, which makes them an excellent target for scrying with the Dark Seer. If you're not familiar with the Dark Seer is an NPC that pops up in tier 16 maps. He offers you the choice of a random unique that you can take, but more importantly for our purposes, he also allows you to scry that map's divination card drops onto another map. So let's say you want to get Ivory Temple's cards onto a better layout. You can run Ivory Temple until you find the Dark Seer, and then you can scry those cards onto whichever layout you'd like. This allows you to take great layouts that maybe don't have great divination card drops and put great div card drops onto them, making your farm just a little more efficient and giving you some more potential jackpot drops, or depending on the card you choose, just another consistent source of profit. So with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about some of the big winners of the patch, as well as a couple of the maps that kind of maybe got the short end of the stick. First of all, pound for pound, I think Mesa is the strongest layout in the league. That doesn't mean it's necessarily the best for every strategy, but Mesa is a really solid layout with a boss that you can go straight to if you're worried about altar farming. It drops the best tier 17 in the game with regards to Fortress. It has a very good divination card drop with the Fortunate, and every single map that's connected to it is a good map. Not only that, it only requires 2 watchstones to get the ping tone started. So I think if you're very early on in your progression, Mesa is an excellent map for you to run. You can scry it onto another layout that you'd like to run later and get the Fortunate dropping there. You have a great map layout to run in the meantime, and everything it's connected to is good. So let's talk about the maps that are connected to Mesa then. Jungle Valley, fan favorite map. If you played in Affliction, you probably ran a little bit too much of this one. Park is another great layout. Now, neither of these has a very good tier 17 drop, but they're both very comfortable layouts to run, especially Jungle Valley with regards to altar farming, because the boss doesn't spawn until after you've gone to the room, meaning that you get better altars. The other maps that it's connected to, Grave Trough and Phantasmagoria, maybe they're not the best layouts to run, but they both have excellent divination cards, and so since you're not going to be running too much of your secondary map anyway, it's a nice excuse to run those maps because you'll be able to gather up more mesas and you'll be able to get that divination card scried onto maybe a better layout that you'd like to run later. Another strong point for this map is that it only requires 2 watchstones to get started. So if you're very early on in your progression and you're looking for something decent to run, I would highly suggest Mesa. Some of the other maps that are pretty big winners here, Shore is connected to City Square, which is also connected to Tropical Island. So City Square is a great map. Doesn't really have great cards. The Mayor's okay. You get high roll chances with the Light of Meeting. If you get a particularly valuable version of it, you can sell that and you'll get something decent. But City Square, both of these maps that it's connected to are good. Now City Square drops Sanctuary, which is a pretty good tier 17 layout. Lycia, maybe a little bit mean. She might take your lunch money sometimes, but the layout itself is really comfortable. Tropical Island doesn't really drop a great tier 16, but it's connected to C Square and it's a fantastic layout. And then we've got Shore, which drops Ziggurat, which has the best boss fragments in most leagues. I haven't seen what the prices are like yet in this league, but typically Ziggurat drops Uber Elder fragments, which allows you to farm for Nimbus, and Maven fragments, which allows you to farm for Progenesis and all sorts of Awakened gems, including Awakened exceptional supports. That's the word for it. Sorry about that. Shore also drops the Fortunate, which makes it a great target for scrying as well, and it's connected to Ivory Temple, which is not a good layout but has very good divination cards. A couple of the other winners as far as good ping pongs goes, we've got Toxic Sewer is next to Beach, which is a fantastic pair of layouts. Toxic Sewer is good for specific strategies like Blight, also very good if you're running something like Harbinger with Beyond. Now it doesn't have any good cards on its own, but it does drop a good tier 17 and you can scry a good card onto it. And then Beach itself is also a very strong layout. A lot of people like running Beach. Again, this doesn't drop a very good tier 17, and the only good map it's connected to is Toxic Sewer, which makes it an excellent target for ping-ponging with Toxic Sewer. Toxic Sewer also connected to Arcade and Grave Trough. We'll go ahead and talk about all these ones that are maybe not great layouts, but are excellent div cards in a second. Finally, okay, we got two more ping pongs. Sorry, finally. We're getting ahead of ourselves here. So two more really good ping pongs we've got. We've got Defile Cathedral and Dunes. Dunes is an amazing layout and probably going to be one of the most popular layouts for the league. However, it requires 4 Watchstones to get started, so you need to make sure you got your progression pretty much done before you can start doing this. However, it's connected to Defile Cathedral. Now, not only is Defile Cathedral a pretty solid layout to run, but it also drops the Apothecary. Everybody likes a good high roll, and so you don't have to worry about scrying this onto something like getting something else scryed onto this map to run it. Not only that, it's a great map to scry onto something else, so maybe you could scry that onto Dunes and run both of those maps and always have a chance for that big high roll drop. Defile Cathedral is also connected to Plateau, which has some good div cards, and Dunes, something great about Dunes, not only does it drop Fortress, but it's also connected to Vault, Pyramid, and Alleyways, which maybe not great layouts on their own, but they've got some good div cards. And finally, as far as good ping pongs goes, we mentioned this earlier in the video, we've got Racecourse and Cemetery. Both of these layouts are missing good divination card drops, so you want to scry something onto there, but Racecourse drops Fortress, which is amazing. Cemetery drops Sanctuary, which is pretty good, and they're both great layouts, so you can ping pong back and forth between the two of them. I would say these are some of the very big winners for the league. The big loser for the league for me, unfortunately, is Strand. Now, this doesn't mean don't run Strand. Strand is an amazing layout, especially for certain strategies like Delirium. However, it's not connected to anything good, which is just a little bit sad for Strand. But if you like running Strand, you should still run Strand. It's a very good map. Let's move on to some of the div cards now. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the maps that are maybe not the best layouts, but do have good divination cards. And we're just going to go through all of these in order here real quick. So Crimson Township drops the Enlightened, and it's connected to Ashenwood. Also drops Sanctuary. Crimson Township's an okay map layout. The layout itself is not too terrible. The boss is kind of a pain, but that's not that big of a deal. And the Enlightened's a pretty solid card to scry. Grave Trough is an excellent scrying target. It drops Brother's Gift, which is a single card for 5 Divine Orbs, and Brother's Stash, which is a single card for 5 Exalted Orbs. It's also connected to Mesa and Toxic Sewer, so if you're running either one of these, I would strongly suggest using Grave Trough as your ping pong early so that you can get these 2 great cards scryed somewhere else. Belfry drops the Demon. This is a very rare card that you're not likely to see a lot, but if you like chasing down high rolls, Belfry might be a good one to scry on. Phantasmagoria drops the Soul, which I think in most leagues wouldn't be that big of a deal. It's 9 cards for a Soul Taker Axe, which is a tier 0 unique. However, the demand for this axe is significantly higher in this league with the buffs to Animate Guardian as well as Mercenaries being able to make use of it in some cases. So Phantasmagoria might be a good option to get scryed onto something else. Arcade drops the Mayor. This isn't an amazing card. We talked about it earlier with City Squares, but it could be an okay one, and it does drop the Fortress, and Arcade itself is not the worst layout in the world. I don't particularly care for it myself, but some people might like it. Estuary drops Lonely Warrior, which gives you Defiance of Destiny. Also connected to Silo, which is a decent map. Ivory Temple, very, very strong for divination cards. It's got Icy Brothers, which is 2 cards for 2 Fracturing Orbs, and it's got the Sephiroth, which is, I believe, 11 cards for 10 Divine Orbs. So Ivory Temple itself, terrible layout. Stinky. But the divination cards are great, and it is connected to shore, so you can use it as a ping pong with shore while you get it scryed onto something else, and then you can switch shore to ping ponging with something better like City Square. Scriptorium drops the nurse. There's a series of 3 cards if you're not familiar. We've got the patient, 8 copies of the patient turns into the nurse, and then we've got the nurse, 8 copies of the nurse turns into the doctor, and then the doctor, 8 copies of that turns into a headhunter. So if you want like a decent, somewhat consistent source of profit that is, you know, generally like the price on this is going to go down as the price of headhunter goes down, but early on in the league, dropping a couple of these could be a fairly big deal for you. Scriptorium might be a decent map for you to run. However, it has a terrible tier 17 drop. It doesn't have amazing connected map drops, and it's just not a very fun map layout to run. So I did include this one, but I don't think it's going to see a lot of play personally. Next, we've got Ghetto. Now, Ghetto drops Home and Fire of Unknown Origin. Home is 3 cards for an exceptional support gem. That's Enhance, Enlighten, or Empower. And Fire of Unknown Origin is, I believe, 7 cards for a Nimbus. So these are, Home is going to be something you see more consistently. Fire of Unknown Origin, kind of a jackpot drop similar to the Apothecary. And Ghetto is admittedly not a very great layout to run, but if you want to get these cards scryed onto somewhere else, decent target for that. Next, we've got Plateau. Plateau has IC Brothers. We talked about this earlier with Ivory Temple. Bazaar has Fire of Unknown Origin. We talked about this earlier with Ghetto. Vol Pyramid. This has Unrequited Love. Now, Vol Pyramid is not a very good layout to run, and Unrequited Love is so rare that you're probably not going to see one. But if you do like chasing that huge jackpot drop, maybe this is one for you to scry onto something else. Next, we've got Spider Forest. This drops the Doctor, which we talked about a little bit with Scriptorium. And we've got Sepulcher, which also drops the Doctor. Sepulcher doesn't have any good connected maps, whereas Spider Forest is at least connected to Bazaar. So if you're trying to get the Doctor scryed on something else, I'd probably go with Spider Forest over Sepulcher. But they're both okay layouts, and they have the Doctor drop, so decent. We've got Alleyways, which drops Home. Talked about that earlier with Ghetto. We've got Ramparts, which drops the Patient. Talked about that earlier with the Patient Nurse Doctor set. And finally, we've got Villa, which drops the Sephiroth. So that's pretty much it. There are some other divination cards out there that are worth something, but I really only included the ones that I thought would be fairly common scry targets for people. If there's something else that you think I missed, let me know in the comments down below, and I'll go ahead and add it. And that's going to wrap it up for us. So I'm going to have the spreadsheet link down below. I'll keep it updated if anybody has any new maps to add to it. So you'll be able to check that out at any point during 3.26, and it should be viable for you. It's everybody's favorite part of the video. It's shameless self-promotion time. If you want to go ahead and check out what we're doing live on twitch.tv/scrimps, love to see you over there. Live generally Tuesday through Thursday and Saturday, although with League Start, I have been streaming quite a bit more than that. So yeah, if you want to come check out what we're doing, please do. Love to see you over there. Thanks so much for your time, guys. Take care.